So the big news is out of the way, and now it's time for you to get really excited, because it's time for me to review the last part of the Blood and Ice Cream trilogy. That is The World's End. So in the fashion of the other movies in Edgar Wright's awesome Blood and Ice Cream trilogy, The World's End again takes place in a pub. But instead of just one pub, there are in fact 12 pubs. So The World's End, as you'll know, again features Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. And it's a little bit of a different role for Simon Pegg, because in the other films, whereas he's like best friends with Nick Frost, and whereas they get on really well, in this one, Nick Frost in fact actually hates Simon Pegg. And yeah, so it's a little bit different for them. And Simon Pegg plays a really different role, and that could go one of two ways for you. In fact, he comes across as kind of unlikable at first, and you kind of think, this could put me off the movie, but it doesn't, because, he plays his part really well. And as with the other films where he plays that sort of very sympathetic role, where he's a lovable character, in this one he's just not. But it didn't really put me off. It may put you off, I don't know what you'd be like with it. But other than that, yeah, it is a great movie. So yeah, it's about 5 friends who go on a pub crawl when they're teenagers in Newton Haven, called the Golden Mile, which consists of 12 pubs, as I mentioned. And the last pub that they have to get to is the World's End. And all 5 of them failed last time. So Simon Pegg's character Gary King decides, he actually wants to complete it this time. So he gets all of his old friends back together, and they go to Newton Haven, and as you'll expect, something goes wrong. And they start to notice that something isn't right, and it turns out that the people in the town have actually turned into robots. And they have to find a way, to stop these robots, much like Shaun of the Dead. They come for no reason, much like the zombies. But that's the magic of the Blood and Ice Cream trilogy. You have to think, how did this happen? How did these people become robots? And as the story unfolds, the mystery unfolds as well, much like Shaun of the Dead, and you get to know, why all this is happening. And again, there is some great laugh out loud comedy in this movie. And Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are great. Simon Pegg plays his role really well, as I've already mentioned, and Nick Frost is so funny in this film as he is in the other films. But this is a completely different role for him, because as in the other ones, he's a bit of a slacker, he's a bit of a loser. In this one, he's like a successful guy, and he just wants to do his job properly. And Simon Pegg is in fact the guy that doesn't like work and who's the loser. As in the other ones, he is still a loser, but he's a worker, and so Simon Pegg and Nick Frost have a bit of a role reversal in this one, which I really liked. But still, the star of the show is Simon Pegg, and Nick Frost is again the kind of bumbling sidekick, although this time he's not really a bumbling sidekick until he's drunk. And Nick Frost, his character is really sensible, and he's not drinking and that at first, but it doesn't last that long, and they get into all sorts of stupid, crazy adventures. And again, there's a lot of action in this movie, and it is very, very silly. And if you don't like movies that are silly, and if you didn't like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, this movie will not be for you, and I suggest you go and see something like Pacific Rim, which has even stupider action, but for, a better reason, I suppose. But this one, is completely different to movies like that. The action is just all out silly, all out fun, and all out hilarious. And, if you're a fan of Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead, you know what to expect from this movie. And if you love them movies, you're going to love this one. This will be no exception. This will be up there in your favourite trilogies, So, yeah. And talk about the other roles. Martin Freeman was great in this movie, and something really unexpected happens, with Martin Freeman's character, and you won't be expecting it. Rosamund Pike is great in this movie. I'd say every main actor in the movie was great, and there's also like a great sort of cameo from Pierce Brosnan. I wouldn't say it's a cameo. I think it's actually a quite big role, but you don't expect him to come, and yeah, he wasn't in the trailer or anything, but he does play a main part in this movie, and that may have come off a bit spoilerish, but I suppose it's not really a spoiler because I haven't told you all the plot and everything, so I'm not going to. But there's also a great cameo towards the end. You don't see the character on the screen, but I'll just say this: he appears in the other two movies, and it isn't Martin Freeman, Simon Pegg, or Nick Frost because they're main characters. But he appears in the other movies in minor roles, and in this one he plays another minor role, but you don't actually see his face, and you may guess or may not guess who that is that I'm talking about, but I won't tell you. I didn't even know it was him until the credits, but let's see if you notice it. So yeah, the zombies are the robots are really good in this movie. Like, they're not typical sort of robots. They're actually like human sort of looking, and they have sort of human skin and everything. But like when they're killed, there's no like blood like the other movies. So it doesn't really, you can't really call this a blood and ice cream movie because there's no blood. But you know, it's kind of cool to see it because when the aliens are like hit, it's really cool because like their heads explode and all this blue ink comes out, and it looks really cool. And like there's this really cool bar fight scene featuring Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Rosamund Pike, Martin Freeman, Paddy Considine. Yeah, it's just so cool. Like, all the main actors take part in this fight, and it is awesome. Like, it just brings back memories. That the whole movie will bring back a sense of nostalgia from the other movies. And once you see Simon Pegg try to jump over a fence and knock it over again, you will be on board with this movie. But this bar fight really brings back sort of memories from Shaun of the Dead, and really brings back a sense of nostalgia. And I'm pretty sure you'll agree if you see it, because it is really cool, and it's really good to see the guys back in action, and it's really cool to like see them, you know, back on the big screen again for the last in their trilogy. And this movie really is like a good end for them. I mean, the ending will come across, you know, I don't know how people are going to take the ending. I thought it was okay, but you know, it's not the best sort of ending you could have for this trilogy. And I'm going to warn you that the endings of the other ones are really sort of feel good, really sort of like heartwarming endings. This one isn't exactly like that. It has a sort of different feel to it by the end. But it's not a bad thing, I don't think. I thought it was a pretty good thing how it ended. Yeah, if you love the other ones, this is a great end to a great trilogy. And I'm not going to let the ending put me off. I think, you know, the movie as a whole is a great way to end the Blood and Ice Cream trilogy on a high. And yeah, I think, you know, I'm pretty sad to see that they've ended it, but as a trilogy it really works. And you know, they can't bring out more than 3 of these Blood and Ice Cream movies. But I really want to see Pegg and Frost back on the big screen together, whether they're with Edgar Wright or not. And you know, I'm not saying I want to see a sequel to Hot Fuzz or Shaun of the Dead. I mean, a Hot Fuzz sequel would be good, but you know, they've wrapped up the whole story. You know, they've wrapped up the sort of tales of these 3 sets of characters in each movie, and they're all similar in a sense. So yeah, it's just such a great way to end the trilogy, and I'm going to end it with a high and give it 4 stars out of 5, and I'm also going to give it a thumbs up. So yeah, have you seen The World's End? What do you think of The World's End? And I can finally ask the question that I've been wanting to ask you. What's your favourite of the trilogy? Is it Shaun of the Dead? Is it Hot Fuzz? Or is it The World's End? Mine is still Shaun of the Dead, but all 3 are great movies. All 3 are different, and all 3 are very original. And I'm gonna just end it like this. I'm not saying these movies are spoofs, because they're not spoofs, but all I'm gonna say about them is I get what Edgar Wright's trying to put across. It's a satire, you know. So Shaun of the Dead was a satire on horror movies and zombie movies as a whole, and Hot Fuzz was a satire on action buddy comedy films, and The World's End is a satire on sci-fi movies. So yeah, I get what you're trying to put across. I don't know if everyone got that, but they're kind of like, they're not spoofs, but they're kind of like, you know, satires on each sort of set of movie, and again, they are great. So I get what he's putting across, and with some movies that wouldn't work, with these movies it really works, and I'm so glad that we got to see these 3 movies as a trilogy. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my review, and if you did, like and subscribe, and remember to go on my Facebook page and give that a like, and again, thank you for watching. Goodbye.